I would like to introduce Basi Affia. He is the owner and chief writer of Sensal Studios, Iowa and Nebraska's first black comic book publishing house, which is quite a title. So thank you so much for joining us today for the conversation about storytelling, what you're doing. You especially work in diversity in literature, comic books, specifically fantasy and science fiction. Yeah, so I would like to start this off by having you tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get going? How did Sensal Studios get going?
Yeah,
Give us all the background.
So, legend has it that I came out the womb with a pencil in my hand. That's just what I heard. But I started writing in about first grade, actually, from back at preschool. The fact that I remember this too. But preschool, I read The Hungry Caterpillar. I don't know what it was about the character progression of that caterpillar approaching these challenges, and it was like, nope, I'm going straight through. And he was hungry, like he wanted it, like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I was just reading into it as a 4-year-old, but that, you know what I mean? Like there was something there. Like analyzing that now, I'm just like, I think something on a deeper level was resonating. But so that's what inspired me to be a storyteller, and I didn't even know it. First grade comes around. My teacher, Miss Reardon, who is she's known by like my whole graduating class just because like her fan base that they're connected. But I didn't know that at the time either. But Miss Reardon, she, we had some in class assignments. I did write a story. So I made a book. It was about dishes, so particularly a spoon, and the first book was about spoon, and his name was Spoonhead. I didn't want to do Spoon Man because I felt like that was easy. Like you just put man at the end of it. Like, and I don't know. I was going through a thing with that. So Spoonhead, and he fought dirty dishes, and so there was a dirty plate, a bowl, all that stuff. And then in the sequel, he got a partner, Forkhead.
There you go.
And then they eventually had a young ward that was a spork. And so, yeah, it just kind of went from there. Second grade, I was really blessed to have teachers that like nurtured this in me too. And not even just my teachers, but like everybody in my life. So second grade, Miss Cass, she let, I don't remember if she let me write these books like during class time or whatever, but whatever she did, she let me read them to the class. And like all my classmates were just captivated. And this one was called T-Rex. And it was about me and my friends, and we were fighting a T-Rex maybe, I don't know. And my friend Josh, he died in the book, and he was like, why I gotta die, bro? And so then I was like, all right. So then I made him come back as an angel, and like it's just all kinds of funny second grader stuff. So from a very young age, the seeds were planted, the love of storytelling was sparked, and then my father was he flips houses, and like he has a lot of free time, and when the house worked really well, we were very well off. And I didn't know that because it's just, I think probably I was like 9, 10, something like that. I'm not thinking about that. I'm just like, this is my dad, and this is our house, and whatever. It wasn't like an absorbently big, had a normal house, but we did go and do cool stuff. That was when we were doing it so frequently, I started catching on. I was like, guys, I think I'm rich. Like, I was like, I think, which we weren't, but we were well off. And so, and that in and of itself created an interesting duality of like lacking but then having and stuff, because my parents are divorced, so it's very interesting there. But my father always nurtured that in me too. Like as soon as we would go on these trips, and he had gotten me a laptop, and I would read the stories that I was writing, and had him, his girlfriend at the time, whatever, my siblings were in there, and like they would all be for 20, 30 minutes just listening, and then I would stop, and they'd look at me like, why'd you stop? And I'd say, that's all I have. And they would be so upset. And they're like, go finish right now. Go sit in the back seat, because he had one of those big vans that has like a PlayStation and a TV in there. the back seat folds out into a bed and like all that kind of thing. So all right, go back there and finish writing. I never did. I only knew how to start stories at that point. But the point being, I had a lot of nurturing very early on, and so later in life I got into making music and acting and other forms of storytelling, just different mediums and all that type of thing. And so then, to skip a bunch of details, basically the pandemic lockdown, everybody had a lot more time. So I feel like a lot more people were consuming though, and I sat down and created, you know. And I think that was at least in my peer group, like that was kind of the difference that I saw. Was like, well, everybody's. I mean, and I did my fair share too. Like I sat down and played copious amounts of Xbox with my friends and whatever. But I could argue that was necessary though to socialize. But I definitely had nights where I had like 4 hours of just like writing these scripts, and so I did the whole first volume of my main series, and I should have edited it, but that's why the second edition is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it all that stuff from my childhood and just having that nurtured and my faith background, just so many things played into this that I couldn't make a list of all this, but it all just kind of almost serendipitously formed where I'm at, because I mean, all the stuff I've done for making music and acting and all this stuff, it all has played a role in what I do, as either writing or when I produce motion comics and I bring in voice actors, and so I'm already comfortable in the studio. I already know how to direct because I've been directed. I know, like, I'm the writer, so I know the story, like, just all this stuff. I'm a voice actor myself, so I know voice acting etiquette, how to, like, I know the terminology, and I know how to direct voice acting particularly. So all this stuff, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, the God was really, like, just planting all the stuff. So yeah, that's kind of, that's a big nutshell, but that's it in a nutshell.
Gotcha. So I really love how you talk about how your love and your kind of gift for storytelling started so young, and you have experimented with quite a lot of mediums of storytelling. You're really big with comic books. How did comic books kind of draw you in as your main medium for storytelling?
Yeah, so I actually wrote a book, and nobody will ever see that. Oh. It's awful. But the creative part of, like, the lore and all that is kind of a loose cannon that my comics launched from. But I was watching a lot more anime and stuff like that during lockdown, and I realized that everybody else was too. And so I was like, okay, maybe this would be. I was like, people don't read like that as much. There's definitely still readers, but not as many. But maybe it'd be a little easier if I made graphic novels, comic books, because at least then they can say, oh, there's pictures, so I can, yeah. So that was really what it was. But then also, like, watching that stuff and then realizing there's not a lot of black people in anime. There's not a lot of authentic representation in these spaces and stuff, and then also seeing how there's another level of narrative in the visual aspect of graphic novels.
Gotcha. So now that you're in the game of writing and bringing in all these other artists to kind of add to things, like the project where you've had, the moving media and, singing and music and stuff like that. As you've touched and been a part of all of these different aspects, what do you want to see changing with these after, you've kind of gotten your involvement in, especially in terms of seeing diversity change and things like that?
In the industry as a whole?
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to see is more diversity, obviously, but not just diversity for diversity's sake. Like, I want diverse voices. I want diverse storytellers to be able to do that, and not just, because there's Black Panther and other black characters, like, in Marvel and, like, all this stuff. yes, that's diversity, but I, the type of diversity that I want is diverse storytelling, not necessarily just diverse characters. Um, and then also, uh, like just a more like overall more positive uh, worldview, I guess. That's portrayed in stories and mediums and stuff. Because there's a lot of things that, even though the theme of a movie or whatever might be good in the end, like it still ends up glorifying certain things that are like, you know what I mean? Because like if you watch a show like Snowfall or Breaking Bad, you know, and the moral of the story is don't be that guy. But what do we end up doing? I'm gonna be Walter White. I want to be just but no, he was wrong. He was the villain. And it's just, you know, so it's weird stuff like that where it's like the way you tell the story matters also. So that's one thing that's a relatively recent paradigm shift, I guess, in my world. But just certain things where it's like, because I mean, even on the side of making music, it's like, okay, well, I have an overall good theme and moral, but little kids cannot listen to it, you know, and this is years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, how good can it really be then? If it's like, you know what I mean? Because we're all still little kids at heart. And so when you're speaking to that part of somebody, you should have the diligence and gentleness of speaking to a child, even though it might be adult words and themes. Still having the professionalism and respect for a person's soul that you know you just come a certain way with it. So with comics and stuff like that, especially as you dip into like the more adult side of things, I don't like there doesn't need to be as much. And we were just talking about this over there, but like there doesn't need to be as much gore just for gore's sake. There doesn't need to be nudity for nudity's sake or for shock value or for what. Like we don't have to do these things just because. There's certain things where it's like, okay, yeah, no, this like there's a character in one of my stories that dies, and like I really need this to drive home because he was talking sense in the story, like he was the voice of reason, kind of, and so for him to die was a big deal, and it's like, okay, so I have to make that a big deal. I have to showcase that. Even then, I didn't make it like his brain is falling out, and like you know what I mean? Like it's because there's some things that I'm just like, why was that necessary? I think anybody see Bird Box?
Yes.
We got one?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody else, go watch Bird Box. With, what is it, Sandra Bullock? Yeah. Yeah, on Netflix. Basically, the premise of that is secondhand trauma. And, like, you can watch something, read something, whatever, and get trauma from that. Did anybody see Smile?
Yes.
I don't think we're horror people here.
Wow. Neither am I, though, is the weird thing.
Oh,
And it's
okay.
funny that I was
Yeah.
listing, like, a thriller and a horror, but...
Yeah.
So Smile is literally about like the theme of it is how depression affects people and like it can get past basically. The demon or whatever would cause somebody to unalive themselves, and then whoever saw that happen, it would then transfer to them, and that like it was a weird thing, but it was still like you know what I mean. So, but those things about like secondhand trauma, going through things, or just like seeing something on the screen or whatever, that affects you. And I mean, even in psychology too, like there's studies it's proven like there's no difference. Your brain can't tell the difference between fiction and reality. Like if you're watching a movie, to your brain, it's like I'm about to get eaten by this Tyrannosaurus, and that's why you jump in the movie theaters. That's why you because your body's like, death. I need to leave, you know. And good job, body. You're doing what you're designed to do. But and there is like a thrill aspect to that. Like we get on roller coasters and it's fun. But at what point are we traumatizing ourselves and desensitizing ourselves to certain things, and then we don't even notice until generations down the line, and then we're like, oh, society has all these problems. Why don't marriages stay the same like they used to? Why don't politicians argue with each other like they used to? Like they do personal attacks instead of just attacking policies, because the whole thing is different. Because like there's something on the inside of us that is broken, and not saying that my books can save everyone and save the world. I'm not saying they won't, but no, I'm just, but it's just the things that we consume play a large role in that. The eyes and the ears are the gateways to the heart. The thing is that what you input is what you output, and that's math. So you're not arguing with me, you're arguing with math.
Okay, that was a very, very beautiful answer. I'm going to take a side note here. We do have Smile and Bird Box, both the movie and the book it was based on, in our collection. So please stop with the staff member and get them places on hold.
Yeah.
I definitely want to kind of ask a follow-up to this. With that kind of vision and hope for the future of things in mind, how does that play into how you set up and how you were trying to focus Sensible Studios and how it works and functions in the works that it produces?
Yeah. There's certain things that I won't allow to be published, but other than those, that it's like I said, I do want diversity and different perspectives and all these, and I think that there's value to that. But there are some things that I'm like, nah, that we don't need to do that. So there's some left and right limits that I have in place about the content we put out. And then I guess like what types of events we go to and stuff too, just like the placement of it and all that type of thing. When we get to the point where we're like, we have a corporate office or whatever, you know what I mean? Like when we're there, I'm gonna tell, and this is just me, but I'm gonna tell whoever my executives are, whatever. I'm like, listen, before we start this meeting, I'm praying y'all are gonna shut up and close your eyes. If you don't believe, cool. It doesn't mean anything then. But I believe it, and I'm in charge. So this is what we're doing. And that's that. You know what I mean? There's gonna be certain things, and I'm gonna try to be very intentional with the culture, because and not just because it's my own bias and how I grew up. There's studies and stuff that show there's certain outputs that respond to certain inputs. So. Yeah, just that type of stuff, and I'm just being intentional about how I treat the people that I work with, and making sure they're compensated fairly. So even now, like she was my friend, and now I guess employee. I don't know. That sounds weird to say, but she's my street team coordinator, and when she started, it was kind of just like she was helping me out, whatever. And then she started running tables by herself. And so I was like, hey, just, here's a little commission because you sold some stuff. And, you know what I mean? Like just making sure people are taken care of for their time and that type of thing. And there's a book called The Go-Giver, if anybody's read it, but it's really about just putting value into things and not being greedy. So, yeah, I think those types of things just with how the values, my company's values it's based on it's the 7 pillars of Kwanzaa. In Swahili, it's the Nguzo Saba, 7 pillars. And so it's things. Because not everybody might be familiar with Kwanzaa. There's 7 days in this holiday, and each day is dedicated to one of these principles. So one of them is unity, creativity, collective responsibility, collective economics, like just faith, all that type of stuff. And so those are the values that the company is based on, just to have a clear scope of like, okay, we're doing this Black comic book thing in a world that has never had that on a large scale. So are we gonna just be like Black American or like African or West Indies or so I voted for all of it and just Pan-African. So I thought those were some good values to start off with to bring that unity. And then I added one too, which I call the Platinum Rule. It was kind of a joke when I put it on the website, but and then I was on Channel 5 in Iowa, and they asked me about it, and I was like, I guess this is canon now. So, but the Platinum Rule I call is just basically knowing how to love yourself, because the Golden Rule is love your neighbor as you love yourself. But if you don't know how to love yourself properly, then you're not going to be able to reflect that. And particularly in the Black community, and I know a lot of other communities as well, and a lot of other people, everybody has this issue in some way, shape, or form, but just loving yourself in a healthy manner and not overdoing it You know, that's a thing that we need. So those are kind of the things that is kind of the basis and foundation of it. Right now, when I get more people, I will add things like written down things, just to make sure that like after I'm long gone, people still know like, nah, this is how it is. Like he was very clear, and I think I benefit too from like looking at history and seeing how things get misinterpreted over time and like misunderstood. So I'm gonna be very clear. I'm like, listen, don't do this. This is the purpose. There's no room for interpretation here. This is what I mean. Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah, just being very intentional about that type of stuff, and yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so as we're talking about kind of the blending of the past and what you want to see out of the future and building, you know, creators in your own studio, what kind of advice do you have for young writers, young comic book writers, especially, you know, Black comic book writers and things like that?
If you are a young Black comic book writer, come to me. I promise you, even if I don't publish any of your stuff, I can save you a lot of time and headache. Yeah, no, it's a tough road for anybody. This is a interesting industry, you know, like in a world where people don't read. It's, you know, it's kind of like, it's like, I don't know. So the kind of caveat to it, I guess, is that there's pictures. So and with the resurgence of anime and comic book movies and stuff, there's people who are like, oh, sick, comic books, like it's cool now, it's pop culture. So that helped. And that was actually one of the other reasons why I pivoted to graphic novels rather than a novel, because I saw I forgot the source, but just the drastic uptick in comic book consumption and content. But it's a weird industry. It's you know, there's the hardcore comic book fans that are like, oh, this is a silver era second edition mint, the number 72, and I'm like, dog, just tell me how much it is. I just want to read it. I don't care about that. And then there's people who just are like me, and they kind of just care more about the story, not necessarily the history behind it or anything. And then there's people who don't care about comic books at all, and they just like my company because I'm bringing diversity and stuff. And then there's people who don't care about either of those things, but they're like super patriotic, and the fact that I have Soldier owned on my banners, they're like, oh yeah, thank you for your service. I'm gonna get this because you know did this. So all of those things, you're gonna meet different types of people in this line of work. So if anybody is wanting to be a writer in general, but particularly a comic book writer, don't give up. It's gonna suck. And don't go into it with the intentions of being Tolkien or Rowling or Applegate or whoever, because that's not what I did, and I'm sure none of those names did either. They were just doing what they loved, and it resonated with people. So that's just how the dice rolled. But you know, there's a lot of obstacles and stuff, and I think when you have, and I'm not saying don't aim big, but when you are just set on like, no, I want to be a famous author, that shouldn't be the goal. It shouldn't be to be a famous author. It should be, how are you affecting society with your stories? Like, how are you know what I mean? Like, dig deeper and do that, and then if what you're saying is resonating with society, then they'll make you famous. Like, that's, you know what I mean? But that shouldn't be the goal. Most of the time, people who get, well, I'll say authors. That's why there's that caricature of authors who are like I kind of look like them right now if I took my hair out, this hair tie. Like, they got the hair and they live in a cabin on Mount Kilimanjaro, you know, and they're like, no, I don't like people. Like, I have to go to a book signing. Oh, poor me, I'm famous. And, you know, like, so like those people don't want that. It's just that they were very human, and they were going through something, and they were vulnerable, and they shared it. And everybody else was like, hey, you deal with that? Me too. And then the person next to them was like, you deal with that? Me too. You ever been with somebody here like, wait a minute, you've seen this movie or you've read that book? I thought I was the only one that knew this gem. Like, that's, you know, and then you find out there's a whole community of weirdos just like me. Like, and you know, And that's how genres are formed. And luckily we have Facebook groups now. So it's a lot easier to find those weirdos. But, and I say weirdo in the best way, because I'm a weirdo. But yeah, man, there's a lot of stuff that you're gonna encounter on this road, and just make sure that it's worth it, that you're doing something substantial, and that you're not wasting your life and your talent.
That's very inspirational, and I don't think we have any super young people here, but it's never too late to start anything. I do want to take a quick pause here.
Yes.
And I just want to check in. Does anybody have any questions so far? Or is someone needs to? Yeah.
I go out in the sun and get a good tan, but I'll never be African American. Does the author deal with other people, other races?
That was so I'm mixed. So my mom's white, my dad's black, the typical setup, and and the default. And I thought about this very intently. I think that the goal of this company in particular is to uplift specifically Black voices, Pan-African voices. There's room for other minority groups, and I will work. So like if there's, I mean, say it's you come and you say, hey, I want to make a comic book. You said what?
Am I a minority group, white male?
I don't know about that, but if you wanted to make a comic book or something like that, and you came up, like I would give you resources, we talk about it. I could produce something for you, but I'm not gonna publish it. Like I'm not gonna stamp my brand logo on there, and because the brand is not me. I don't have a problem working with you, but the brand is a platform for a certain thing. And so to honor that space, and then also to honor your space and your time, I think that there is a wisdom in having appointed times and spaces for different things. And so, yeah, I would definitely, I'm open to working with anybody. It just might not be in the same space or realm, but we could produce something, and then I could show you how to do it yourself. Like I said, save you a lot of headache and just show you the process, because I learned it the hard way. And so I'm actually thinking about making some courses and putting them online to just kind of be like, hey, if you don't have a couple $1,000s to do this, and you need 7, 10, 15 years to do one book, which is fine, here's courses that you can take so that you can at least know how to do it, and then you can take your time doing it. Because I have timelines on my stuff. It's like, hey, if you want to publish with me, you got 6 months to do this, 2 weeks to do that, this to do that, and that's and the creators that come to me, it's a hybrid model. So they put in the money to it. I give them all the resources. I have the networks, all that stuff, and then they get 90% of their money back. So as opposed to a traditional publishing deal where they get 10% of it, or even with Amazon, they only get 60% of it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So I definitely try to make a space for, or I am open to working with everybody. It just might be in a different space.
This is where that very, very detailed mission statement comes into play?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Gotcha. Does anybody else have any questions at this time?
Can you recommend a comic or anime that would deal with the topic of being a snitch or being a whistleblower, and maybe the tension that exists in being a snitch or being a whistleblower?
Are you familiar with the Boondocks?
What?
The Boondocks.
Like it's a comic strip. Right?
Well, it's an anime. It's an
There's
animation.
an anime called Boondocks?
Yeah, the Boondocks. Yep.
Okay.
Very black, and they definitely talk about that. So.
Okay.
I am not sure if we have that series in our collection.
Probably not.
But if you come and talk to any of our staff, I'm sure we can find you something. Gotcha. Any other questions at this time?
How much would it cost for someone to go through your process if they were looking to?
Yeah, it depends. Depends on how long the book is, which artist you want to use, because I have multiple, so I couldn't even really give you because I mean, maybe somebody wants 4 pages. I work with some companies and stuff, and there's one in Oregon that wants to just tell it's a branding thing. They want to tell the story of their company a little better, so they just wanted like a 4-page comic book that kind of just tells that. And so I mean, there's that, and I have packages and stuff too that come with like different configurations of marketing and like all these other things. So like, I really couldn't tell you until we actually sat down and I saw what it was.
Yes. Do you sell those T-shirts on your website, or are you thinking about doing that?
I do.
As part of your branding?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, yes, you can go on my website right now and get it. It's on there. It started off as a sweater, and nobody bought it. And I got one, and then I got one for my cousin. So there's 2 people in this world that have the sweater of this right now. Yeah, and it's me and my cousin. So then I got rid of it, and then summer came around, 2023, and I was like, you know what, because this design is fire. Like, let me try again. A couple people have bought it. The thing is, people like getting stuff in person, and the way that, anybody watch Kevin, it's a Kevin Hart reference, but the way my bank account is set up, the shirts, I don't have them with me. It's at the third party, and so when people order it online, the third party just ships it right to them. So it's difficult for me because I have to buy them essentially to have them with me. I'm like, I'm not gonna buy 50 shirts for people to maybe get it. Like, that'd probably be the most expensive thing I've done. But you can get them online for sure, and it's not just this one either. I have stuff with my logo on it. I have all types of stuff. So yeah, definitely go on there and check out all types of stuff. We have these. I have art prints and sticker packs. I'm about to get into some 3D printed stuff. So I'm just trying to figure out that's a whole other beast. So, but yeah, good question.
Yeah, I think that will really go somewhere. Yeah,
Thank you.
that we need to
Continue in that direction. Where did the name Sensible Studios come from? I don't remember if you said.
I did not. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
So, Sensil is an Amharic word, which is a language in northeastern Africa, Middle East, that kind of type of region. And they speak a lot in Ethiopia. It's a combination of 2 words, sensol and il, which, when you put them together to get sense of, basically means sequential art. And so what it originated from was these folded pieces of paper that they would use in monasteries in Ethiopia to tell stories, because in like in Orthodox Christianity, they have a lot of oral tradition. And so the Ethiopian Orthodox churches have the oral tradition, and then they would have the stencils that to accompany it, and they could show and have these drawings and paintings and stuff on that. That dates back to like the 16th century or something like that, I think. So that's what it started as, and I mean, that's really kind of like, I mean, drawings on folded pieces of paper, that sounds a lot like a comic book, you know what I mean? So, and then it also draws back to kind of an unadulterated black narrative, being that Ethiopia is the only country in Africa to not be colonized. And so it's kind of calling back to the roots of that and saying like, hey, let's have our own comic book, you know, because in Japan they have mangas, in America it's comic books, in Korea it's called one thing, in China it's something else. So for black creators, and there was actually an Ethiopian creator who was on social media that kind of did a call to action for this. And so I took that by the horns. And he was basically saying like, hey, we should call our stuff Sensils. And I'm like, cool, easy enough for me. And so, and that was right before I started my company too. So as I was thinking of my company name, I was like, and this is how I know it was God, because I could not think up anything else, and it came to me so easily. It was just Senso Studios, and I wrote it down. I remember I was at my friend Jeannie's house. Shout out Jeannie Mixton, and I was sitting there, and we were just brainstorming, doing business stuff, and you know, whatever. And we're just bouncing ideas off each other. I tell him that idea sucks. He tells me your idea sucks. I'm like, okay. So I'm writing down these business names, and I put Senso Studios, and I stopped, and I was just like, dude, I can't think of anything else. Like this is the one. It perfectly encompasses what I'm going for. Studios, because it's not gonna only be books. Like I have me and one of my friends is we're working on a like a mobile game. You know, the book stuff, the art prints, 3D printing stuff. I mean, I make music too, so I mean, you know what I mean? Just all these different things. So studios, and then Senso just drawing back to unadulterated black storytelling. So, yeah, good question.
Any others at this time?
Okay, so with the enormous list of skills, abilities, just all of the things you do, I want to ask a bit about something that we haven't really talked about, which is the fact that you are a veteran, and how that does kind of play into your stories. I know in addition to wanting to give a louder voice to diversity, you do also aim to give a louder voice to veterans and veteran stories and things like that. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so that was a very interesting story arc for me. So in my younger years, is that formative? My formative years? Yeah. I get former and latter mixed up all the time. Yeah, but so when I was younger, I was the type of guy that was like, oh, military. Actually, hold on, let me go back to the beginning. I was like, die hard, I'm gonna be a Marine. Like, I'm gonna go kick in doors and like do this thing because I was brainwashed from video games. Boom. And then I became a teenager, and I was like, what is authority? Like, what? I don't know what that means. And so, I don't know, I started viewing military personnel as drones. Literally, I'm like, they're drones. They just follow orders and they don't think for themselves and they yada, yada, yada. And I know people that think this to this day. And I laugh because I'm like, I was just like that. Life goes on. I start maturing a little bit. I get a family. I get whatever, yada, yada, stuff happening. And I ended up joining, mainly because I just wanted to serve. I wanted to serve people in some way and be a light in the darkness. And after praying about it for a while, God was like, hey, the Army sucks. And I was like, all right, sure. And so long story short, I get in and I realize it's all just regular people, normal guys and ladies, like just the most normal people you could think, honestly. Like, 'cause in movies, it's always like some like jacked dude that's like, I'm a killer, and it's nobody there, at least not in the National Guard. Like, they were all, I mean, there's some guys who'd seen some stuff, but for the most part, even those dudes too, they're like, I mean, dude, I joined so I could go to college, and then I found myself in a position where people were shooting at me, so I shot back. Like, that's, anybody else would do that, especially because I just trained for 16 weeks on how to do that. So like, man, it really like humbled me and put me, because I thought I was gonna go in there and be like, oh, I'm gonna fix these weirdos. Like, they are so wrong and messed up, and I'm gonna flip the whole system on its head. And yeah, I was really just like, man, it's a hack, honestly. It's a life hack. Being in the military, I recommend it for anybody. At least try. Go sign up, go to MEPS, if it's for you. Like, go investigate, see if it's for you. I really hope you find a good recruiter, because they don't need to lie to people. Like, there's a lot of good benefits. People think that they're like lying to you. Bad recruiters will, but I never met any in my experience. They just told me what it was. They're like, look, these are the things you can do. You get this benefit, this benefit, this benefit, this benefit, and they forgot to tell me about some. So, not to mention the benefit of like being able to put soldier owned or like I was a vet or whatever on stuff, because so many doors open with that. But so I recommend it to everybody, just because I'm like, dog, you get in, if you go active duty, do your little 2 years, and you gotta flex. Like, that's the biggest flex you have. Like, honestly, it doesn't matter what you did. It don't matter if you're deployed or not, whatever. You could rake rocks all day. You can mop the rain and sweep the sunshine, and that's all you did. That's like 90% of what the tax dollars go to, is weird stuff like that. But but seriously, like, you don't have to be kicking in doors or whatever. Like, it's whatever you're doing. When you come out, there's a perception, and there's also loans and money and stuff that is instantly available to you. the Navy Federal Bank or whatever it's called. Like, just so many people don't even know what that is. And so I definitely recommend people at least investigate, especially if there's a reason why recruiters go to high schools and stuff in particularly impoverished areas, whatever, because it's a way out. And I know there's a lot of people. I mean, you can go the illegal route, you can just claw your way to the top of the corporate world, or just do a couple years for Uncle Sam. They pay you to go get trained for a job that you can use in the civilian world, and you get to blow stuff up. Like, it's pretty cool. So, I don't know, man. That's just my perspective. It was really good to me. It wasn't perfect. There's definitely a middle between, like, perfect and completely trash water. But you get out what you put in. So, in all of that, in all of that, I learned a lot. And my job in particular as a religious affairs specialist was to work with the chaplains to make sure that the spiritual fitness of our unit was sound. And that looked like a lot of things. I had a very pluralistic job, which was new to me as a Christian, because I was like, not so much even like the Muslims. Like, I'm cool with, I have plenty of Muslim friends, Buddhist friends, whatever. It was when it was stuff that was like, oh, you know, you might not be able to be involved in Bible studies or whatever because of your position. And I was like, huh? That's stupid. So I started doing it anyways. And, you know, I shook things up a little bit, but I mean, I could tell that they learned a lot. And I learned a ton. I learned way more. But then also the pluralistic value of it, and just having the opportunity to talk to people of other faiths and talk to people of you know, just other beliefs and stuff like that. I love that. Like, that's my favorite thing. I like to argue. But not just like Facebook argue, I mean like debate and be like, hey, here's what I believe, here's the evidence why, like philosophically and logically, here's the conclusion I came to. And then there was this one particular guy, he was from Texas actually, and he like would drive up to Iowa, it was crazy. But he was Muslim. We would have theological debate, and I'm like, dude, this is so, I'm so pumped right now. Like, this feels good, I love doing that. So those types of connections too is another way where it's like, dog, you meet the best people. But so just that was my job, and making sure that people's spiritual, even people who are not religious, like just making sure your brain is good, you know, referring you to different resources that we have and stuff. So that was my gig. It was fun. It was cool. And actually, I learned a lot about people, so it changed my perception on what I thought a veteran was, what I thought a soldier was, and so bringing this full circle back around to your question, man, they are just like anybody else. They want a voice. They deserve to be served. If anybody deserves anything, it's somebody who signed up to go and potentially die. And I'm not even gonna say like die for your freedoms or die for your country or whatever. Like, they were willing to die just for a better life. Like, they were willing to potentially be put in danger, knowing that there's idiots that might be in charge at any given point, and that is what it is. You know what I mean? And it's you're really doing it for your brother in arms to the left and right of you, and you're doing it for your mom, your dad, your sister, whoever. Like, people have their different motives, but whatever you're doing it for, I mean, you're a normal human being. You have aspirations, you have motivations, and if you're willing to literally risk everything, you deserve something. Like, you know, the literal definition of deserve being you made an action to earn this. That's my view. I don't know, but yeah. So that's one thing. I'm like, dog, they deserve to be heard. We, I guess, deserve to be heard. Because they're jacked up. We're an odd bunch. it's scary sometimes, but you know, if people are heard and they feel valued, you know, that's the start point. So I think there'd be a lot of healing done in that community. There'd be a lot of just a better time too, just to be able to be like, hey, that's cool. I was just reading this comic book, and that dude kind of like I resonate with that, you know. So yeah, same concept that I apply for the black community, just apply it to veterans. And you're like, hey, yeah, this is another group that needs to be heard. They have a voice, and they have a particular set of skills and experiences that not a lot of people know about. And the culture shock of when I joined and looking back on how I used to think, I was like, oh man, I feel like, not that I'm obligated, but you know, I did a lot of work on this side of the line, and now I see where I was in error, so I am motivated to do some work on this side. So, yeah, that's kind of the long form answer for that.
Very nice. Also, just want to do a shout out. One of Omaha Public Library's 2024 Reading Challenge topics is to read a book about or featuring a veteran. This one is in the system right here, our veteran author. I did want to change gears a little bit more, especially concerning one of the questions we had earlier. Out of the many, many talents that you have, one of the ones that is not on your list is artist yourself. How did it go to finding the artist for your studio? How does it work as a writer, trying to find the artist and the art that you feel tells your story the most accurately?
So let me start off. I draw a mean Batman. Okay, that's nobody can ever take that away from me. There's like I still have the folder from when I was like 12, best drawings I ever did in my life. But it was with colored pencil. But yeah, the just Facebook, social media. That's how you find. You know, I'm blessed enough to have been alive in the era that I'm in, where I could just hop on this supercomputer that's in my pocket and be connected with somebody on the other side of the planet who lives in a country where the economy is in such a way that something that's inexpensive here is a lot of money there. So it worked out for both of us, and yeah, it was a symbiotic relationship. That was the dude that I worked with and am still working with. I have a roster of other artists now too, for art prints, other stories, whatever. But yeah, so I mean, it was kind of something I just ran into him digitally, virtually, and you know, he did good work. So I'm at the point now though where it's like just you get what you pay for. So it's, you know, he does, the quality of it is good. What are those three things? You can get something fast, good, or cheap. Yeah, fast, good, or cheap. You can have two of those. You can't have all three. So his is good and cheap. So I'm at the point now where I'm like, okay, all right, I have a schedule, and you know, I'll still use you for some stuff, but you know, I have a larger roster now, and people that can meet certain deadlines and all that type of thing. And I learned too now that I'm like, okay, he juggles a lot of projects at once is the problem. So not my problem. I wouldn't even call it a problem. It just didn't work out for me. But so I still use him for some smaller stuff. I'm working on a motion comic right now that he's illustrating, and he's hurrying right now because the deadline is coming up. But he does good work. Yeah, I mean, and you get to know each other too. You know what I mean? Like I know a little bit about his family. He knows a little bit about mine. We kind of, you know, so stuff like that. Holidays come around. Hey, Merry Christmas, man. How you doing? You know. So yeah, those things are that's a really cool part of it. But yeah, you just kind of meet these people, and especially going to Comic-Cons and stuff, meeting tons of artists and stuff there. So just getting out into the arena, you meet other folks that are in the space, and then they just really like what I do, I guess. So they're like, I want to do it. Me, sign me up. All right, cool. So it worked out.
I love that. We love what you do too.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so we're coming up near the end of our hour. I wanted to reach out at this point. Does anyone have any other questions?
Did you do the college thing or not? Like, do a degree in writing or whatever?
I took some classes at DMAC, which, if you're not familiar, is a community college, Des Moines area community college. Took a couple classes there, and I realized this is just high school again. I don't want that. But that was also before I started my company, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I did take one writing class. It definitely helped me with character development. It broadened my understanding of like the technicality of writing a story. But I'm particularly self-educated after that. I mean, just books and stuff like Save the Cat and like basically it's like writing for dummies. You know what I mean? Like writing 101. But it's just the fundamentals. I don't have an issue with the creative side. I needed to learn the mechanical, technical parts, which there's not a lot to it. You know, there's certain scenes, certain types of things that happen in every successful story. I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel here. I'm gonna use those, and I'm gonna plug and play. So, and it's worked out. So you know, just try not to. Yeah, I try not to get too caught up in like the educational, or no, not that, in the school part of it. Education, yes. I didn't get a degree or anything from college, but well, I mean, so I did I got a certificate of completion for the Business Accelerator program at Drake University, which was basically a crash course for their business class. And yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about going back now that I know what I'm doing and I know what I want to do and like where I need to learn things. I was just talking about this too. This is a sign. There's just some things like a marketing class or like just like certain things about business in particular, like not just a general business class, but like the infrastructure for your business. This is how you do funding and like that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Stuff that you don't just learn. You got to go and learn that. So yeah, there's definitely that's in the cards. I think at some point for sure. And I definitely advocate for education and people getting educated, not only necessarily in a classroom, but you know the trades or anything like that. I mean, like I said, the Army pays you to learn a skill. Like they have electricians, they have truck drivers, they have whatever. That's education, and a lot of their stuff counts as college credits. So you know they have IT jobs, anyways. But yeah, I mean the trades. I have my CDL, so if I ever need to, like, you know what I mean. If just absolutely everything fails, I can go and drive buses and stuff and whatever. So yeah, definitely get your education, kids.
Oh.
Yeah, at the phone. Yeah,
Okay.
or at the camera. Kids, get your education. Stay in school. Yeah.
That was it. I mean, this is just a comment kind of on the same. The author Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yep.
His father has a publishing company, and it's all African American stuff. But anyway, he of all his kids, Ta-Nehisi do finish college, but he's the one that took off and lost.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's he couldn't believe it. Maybe by now he did. He got pretty close, but then he started getting really famous, and I don't know.
It's interesting that you mentioned him too, because he's actually going to be in a bookstore in Des Moines here in a couple of weeks. So if you guys want to go to that, it's at like I think it's Beaverdale Books. But yeah, he's going to be there, so you connect with them or something. Maybe, yeah, but yeah. So if you guys, do you guys know who Ta-Nehisi Coates is?
I don't.
Yeah, you know, I'm only vaguely familiar. So I learned who it was this year, earlier this year, and it was actually from the show Bel Air, which is a remake of The Fresh Prince of Bel Air. But they mentioned, and I was like, who is that? So I went and looked at him, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. So yeah, but I haven't read any of his stuff, but from my research, I'm like, oh, I should know this person. So yeah,
He took his dad.
Yeah, we do have quite a number of his works in the collection, and I think we might have a few here if you're curious.
Perfect. There you go.
I have one more question. How do you? I've got like 18 things I want to write about, and I don't know how to meld them together. Should I just divide it up into 18 separate projects and then sit and look at them and wonder, well, which one's the dominant theme of this story?
Okay, I just went through a class on ideation, which it sounds familiar to, or similar to what you're saying. So I would say basically rank the ideas based on like how excited you are about it, how impactful or important you think it's going to be in society. Why do we need to hear that story? Like we not want to. Why do we need to hear that story? Just rank all those ideas, and this is just one way you can do it. Rank those ideas to tell you what order to go in. Focus on one. If you have 18, it might take you 18
It's just
to.
a number I threw in.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say.
16 or 12
16
or
either
20.
way, regardless of how many you have, do one at a time and put everything you have into every single one at a time. If you get burnt out before you finish, that's fine. You have 6, 7, 10, whatever, really good stories. Alternatively, what I did, because I will wake up in the middle of the night with a new idea, build a universe, and using all of those ideas, you said you can't figure out how to mesh them together. Maybe there's separate stories in that same universe. Maybe there, you know what I mean? But don't try to write a story. Don't get so lost in world building that you don't sit down and write. The first job should just be writing a script. It doesn't matter if it's garbage. It doesn't matter. You need to finish. That's the hardest part of being a writer, is finishing what you're doing. That's what I was saying earlier. When I would read my stories to my family on our road trips, I knew how to start. I never finished. Finishing is the big, like that's the first litmus test, kind of, is like, can you finish anything? We're not even gonna ask if it's good yet. Can you finish something?
So I can do stream of consciousness stuff on 16 different topics.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they're going to relate or if they're going to
Yup.
relate. And stream of consciousness really isn't a form of literature, I don't think.
If you write it down, it's literature, bro. As far as I'm concerned, like I said, it might not be good, it might not be whatever, but I'm sure there's at least 5 weirdos out there that will.
Well, it's probably good therapy.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying, because I don't know nothing about it. So there's a whole world. You will have a whole audience, particularly to that, and they'll be following along, and they'll know exactly what you're saying, like that. You know what I mean?
I'm writing
So
on paper. I'm old school. I'm not writing on the internet.
do that then. However,
There's cameras everywhere
yeah.
here, so who knows who's
However you get it done, get it done. That's the first thing. So just finish something. If it is just word vomit all over just finish it. That's what editors are for. Okay. So you'll finish that. You'll send it to the editor, and they'll say, okay, I like the way that the puke kind of splashed the page here. Let's just clean up these edges, and then now the word vomit has suddenly became soup or something. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't know where that was going. I was trying to fix it. I was trying to catch it, but no. So but they'll take what you wrote and they'll make it. They'll tighten it up. Yeah, because I mean, you'll read some of your early work. You'll read it years later, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I should have taken a little more time with that. I did that with this, and so I've probably edited it like an accumulation of like 10 times at this point. But just going in and shaving stuff out that doesn't need to be there. And I got so busy, like, oh well, they need to know about this thing that's gonna come up 3 seasons from now. No, they don't. You don't need to talk about that yet. Just tell this story. So that's what I was saying. Rank the things. Pick which one you want to talk about. Even if you mesh them all together, you only have, especially in 2024, you only have a certain amount of time for people to like stay on it. So just tell the one story, and if they're jiving with it, they'll come back for the next one, and then they'll come back for the next one, and then maybe season 4 or 5, you drop something and they're like, oh, he was planning this all along. It's all connected. It's all in the same universe, you know. So, but just finish your first one, and then shoot me a message, and we'll go from there.
How do you get your old school at all? Or
Just on, I mean, no.
I can't write you a letter.
I mean, nah.
Mail it to you?
No, I barely check my mail, though. Like, only time I check my mail is if I know there's a check in the mail. But
Take one, but I wouldn't try to cash it.
yeah, no. But so on my website though, there's a Facebook Messenger icon in the bottom right corner. If you tap on that, it sends it to my Facebook page. I run my Facebook page, so.
So what's your webpage?
Senso Studios is actually in the back of here. There's a QR code. So if you scan it on your phone, it'll bring it up. But sensostudios.com. If for any reason you can't remember what to search up, literally type in Iowa Black Comic Books. I will be the first 5 to 10 pages on Google. I'm highly Googleable So, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so I have one last one for you. We've had an amazing time here with you.
Thank you.
Where can we see you next?
Yeah.
What do you have upcoming? You know, what are your upcoming projects that you're getting really excited about?
So where you can see me next, I believe, is Animate Des Moines, which is it's like a Comic-Con basically. It's over in Des Moines. We have two over there, Des Moines Con and Animate. Des Moines Con's in May, so the one in September is Animate Des Moines. I was there last year. It was a good time. But last year it was on the Cyhawk game, so I feel like that kind of, yeah. But so I'm anticipating it's gonna be a lot more people this time too. But it was fun. It was good. In November, November 15th, I'm having a red carpet event for a motion comic that I am producing at a theater on the south side of Des Moines. Tickets are limited. It's like it's capped at 130 VIP and 70 general admin. So if you guys want to dress up and come out for a couple hours to we'll have a photo op section and all that as a red carpet experience. So projects, I have a partnership with a professional race car driver, and I'm working with his nonprofit to put out a story, and so my artist is finishing it up right now. It's hopefully like a month or two. It's taking a little longer than planned, but so that'll be out. I have a script written for a zombie comic or whatever. It's a pilot because like I wanted to do a series, but like I'm like, okay, let me just do one and see how people respond. So, but yeah, I think that'll probably be around 28, 30, 32 pages, something like that. But that'll probably be next year because I want to do it for spooky season, and so yeah, that's probably spooky season 2025. But other than that, so I have the second. So these are limited edition now. This version of it. So I still have some of them, and I'm trying to get them off this year because I have the second edition of it that's being produced right now, and that'll be out in February. So that's the immediate next one is the second edition of that. I have a fantasy that I'm working on, and this will actually be my first like tried and true fantasy story. I've been meaning to get it out. It's 11 pages, super quick read, but I've had this in my brain. This is another pilot for a limited series, but it's like a historical fantasy thing where he goes through these huge historical moments like the siege of Jerusalem and the fall of Carthage and all kinds of stuff. So putting the pilot out for that. Actually, that'll probably be done by the end of this year, but I don't know when I'm going to put it out yet because I'm just getting it done just because I can, and then I'll use that to keep you guys going until 2026 or something. I don't know. So I got some stuff coming out. So stay posted on my Instagram at Sensible Studios. All my stuff is on my website, so you can definitely check that out. So you said where you can find me at? What do I have coming up?
Is there anything else you want to add?
Nah, I mean I think no. Oh, yes. AfroCon. Yeah. So, yes. I do a lot. I know this. I got it. So that's why I have a logistics officer. Because she texts me and says, hey, you have to do this today. And I'm like, all right, I got you. Yeah, so we'll have a table at AfroCon here in Omaha. And it's October 12th. And yeah, so my logistics officer will actually be there running the table. I have a ton of stuff. Otherwise, I love coming to Omaha, honestly. It's like the most fun. I haven't gotten to go to the zoo, but that's like, I'm like, dang it. But yeah, no, my teammate, she lives here, so I mean, I hang out with her. She took me to this Ethiopian restaurant, fire. Yeah, I really like being here. I came here for OCon. I wanted to come back for Anime Nebraska too, but I'm gonna be in Kansas City that day. But yeah, definitely AfroCon will have a table. love our books. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so honored that we are part of your busy schedule, keeping you busy.
No, yeah, it is. Yeah, thank you. This is honestly, this is like the most fun thing for me. Because after I write it and I create, then I'm just like waiting for artwork, and that's boring. Like with ADHD, I don't know if y'all know, I need stuff like all the time. I need something to be able to like, oh, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. So even the drive over here, I'm like listening to podcasts and stuff, and I'm like just locked in. And so this is fun. We could go for another hour if y'all want to. I don't care. Like this is cool to me. I'm like, look, Mom, I'm on TV. Like I don't know. It's you know what I mean. Like this is fun. So thank you for having me. It's really cool to be able to meet people, network, answer questions. This year I realized it was thrust upon me. I didn't choose this. I'm kind of Iowa famous. And I had learned this because I was at a Comic-Con. I have friends that do Comic-Cons full time. They go around the country. So, and I see them at multiple. So I saw them in Cedar Rapids. We're hanging out. We're getting ready to go get food. Somebody came up. Hey, you're the dude that owns the, you know. And I'm like, yep. And my friends are like, what the heck? And I'm like, I have a confession, you guys. I'm famous here. And they were like, what? And I was kidding, but I mean, it's kind of true, I guess. But because like I'll be at work. I work at Mr. Car Wash. There's people that have came through the car wash and they're like, just smacking their window with their finger, like, yeah, you're the guy. And I'm like, yeah, can you go, please? Like, this is a car wash, dog. Like, you can circle around if you want. But yeah, so this is really fun for me to be able to be with the common folk again. And no, I'm just kidding. It's really fun to be able to talk to people and just share. I'm a verbal processor too, so it helps me to like recount my life and all types of stuff. So invite me back because there's a lot we didn't talk about.
Yeah. We got you, Michelle.
Yeah, definitely let me know. So I'm with it. I'm with it. Any other questions? You can make something up right now on the spot. Ask me my blood type. I don't care.
Yeah.
Which Ethiopian restaurant?
I don't remember the name of it. I don't. I'll text it. Hold on. Because it was good.
Because there's a coffee shop you need to go to next time.
Oh, there's a coffee shop.
Yeah, I'll
Is it
It's
Ethiopian coffee shop?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I'm already know. So my wife is Kenyan.
Okay.
So I'm already know. If y'all don't know this, Africans treat tea like we treat coffee. They put milk and stuff in it, and like it's not just tea. It's not just like leafy water. It's milk with the tea stuff in it, and then they add but it is honestly that's normal tea. We have weird tea. We have like British tea, and it's weird. Most other places have like milk and stuff in their tea and like that type of thing. Because there's this guy I was in a business class or something. Where's he from? You know, I don't know, but it's like Southeast Asia, I think. And he was like, "Hey, I have this tea that it was a business intensive type thing, so we were like showcasing our stuff." And his thing was tea, and so he brought it. I sipped it, and I was like, "Yo, this tastes like Kenyan tea." And so, but yeah, so that's normal tea. So like, yeah, the Ethiopian tea spot, I would definitely love that. And if you guys haven't had apparently real tea, I would greatly invite you, unless you're lactose intolerant, you know, then you can stick with what the Brits gave us, which is good too. I mean, that's all equally valid tea. Thank you. Yeah, let me know where that's at.
Can I ask a final question for myself?
Yeah.
How do you reward yourself? Is the intrinsic act of doing this its own reward, or do you have other rituals or whatever, like you could take a trip somewhere or buy something nice for your wife? I don't know. Do you have other things that you do to keep motivating yourself, or is this activity your true nature and it's just like breathing to you? Because that's what it sounds like.
Money. I'm very blessed to be able to get paid doing what I love. So it doesn't feel like work, but I do get paid to do it. Like I just came from the farmer's market in Des Moines. I made money today. I only work at the car wash like 8 hours a week because I'm usually gone on the weekend out of town at a Comic-Con or whatever. And
Does that recharge your creative batteries doing
oh yeah.
this work? Like
So here's my thing. I'm married with 2 kids, so getting away from 2 kids in particular. I'm not a kid person. I love my kids, but like kids as a concept, you know what I mean? Like, so when I'm away from them, I'm like, oh, thank God, I can sleep. I don't have to deal with like little 5-year-old things. And then when I get back, I'm like, oh my God, I miss you guys so much. But so when I am gone though, it's like, it really is a recharge. And it's funny because my wife told me the other day, she was like, don't take this the wrong way, but when you're gone, there's a little bit of relief. And I'm like, hey, don't take this the wrong way. I know. So, yeah, I mean, just being able to go on the trips and stuff, that in itself is a bit of a recharge. I get to have fun. There's certain cons too that have like more of a party aspect, so they'll have music playing outside after the vendor hall ends, and so like all the vendors and attendees and stuff go out, listen to music and, you know, hang out, whatever. So it's definitely like a paid vacation. Like I get a lot of recharge on those weekends. Maybe not physically because I'm like doing stuff, but one night of good sleep after I come home, and then it's cool. So there definitely is. It's a self-perpetual thing. I get satisfied out of it. I get paid enough to where, you know, I can take care of stuff, and and then also, you know, my voice acting and music, like all that stuff. So all that pays too. So just all the creative ventures, learning how to monetize it. And that's why I said money, because that's, other than the stuff you were talking about like the internal and the stuff that's a little deeper, you know, because all that is very well and good, but good feelings don't pay bills. So, so money, yeah. Good question. Good question.
Do we have any last questions? Any others?
You've been locked in, bro. You got any questions? You've been like, yeah, you've been like laser
A
focused.
little bit after.
Yeah,
But like maybe
okay.
like during the interview. Yeah.
Let me know. I mean, you could be a part of it. The thing is, I don't want to put down the mic. Like, this is a moment for me. Like, I'm like, yeah, no. So, I mean, if you want to talk, we can do that offline if you want. But,
Absolutely, yeah.
but yeah, for sure. All right. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys.
All right, well, I want to give one last huge thank you to you for driving all the way from Des Moines to be here today.
Hey.
Amazing.
No, thank you. It was an opportunity to listen to some audio books. So.
There you go. There you go. I also want to thank all of you guys for coming down here to listen to Basi talk, to all his amazing stories and what he's all about. I do want to plug kind of our cool events we have coming up. Here at the downtown branch, we also have events going on in October. We have 2 important ones. They're not on the same day as AfroCon, so you can hit all of them. We do have another author visit, Theodore Wheeler. He's going to be coming down here Sunday, October 27th from 3 to 4 p.m. So if you love being able to talk and engage with authors, that's going to be a great opportunity. The week before, we are having a super fun program here for the downtown because the Old Market is perfect for it. We're going to be having a neighborhood scavenger hunt. It is completely free. You get to engage with the Old Market. And of course, it's a great opportunity to win some free prizes. It'll be a super fun time. That one is going to take place from 2 to 4 p.m. I would also like to engage with you. We do close at 5 p.m. today. But do, on your way out, take a look at some of our cool displays, talk to our staff if you guys have any questions, if any inspiration hits you for things you want to place on hold or check out. We do have some books over here on the table that do have a focus on diversity in science fiction and fantasy, if you want to grab any of those. His book here is available for checkout today. We also have another one in the system, so anybody that wants to check it out, place it on hold, come talk to us. Yes, and then I believe we have a program evaluation, Michelle? Not this time?
No.
All right, cool. Well, don't even worry about it. Thank you so much for coming today, guys. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.